Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us today to stay curious. Today, we're going to talk about 4 shuttle missions that are orbiting the Earth in space history on this date, April 26th. And each one of them is a very exciting mission that had some groundbreaking science that is being done now on our International Space Station. So we're glad that you're with us today. We love celebrating the shuttles of every month because the shuttle era and the legacy of it is living right now today on the International Space Station and all the improvements that have been done in our society today, from medicine to electronics. You can trace them back to some shuttle mission somewhere where something was tested or observed for the first time. And we're going to look at some of these exciting missions. Marty Winkle's my cameraman and co-producer. We have done well over 552 episodes in 2 years of bringing you Stay Curious, born out of the pandemic, so that our proud nonprofit here in downtown Titusville wouldn't be forgotten. And boy, you haven't forgotten us by really a surprise. The silver lining of the pandemic is that Stay Curious has become popular to so many of you out there watching on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Twitch. And we're very grateful for you sharing it with your friends, telling your friends, and subscribing to our YouTube channel there. So let's kick it off a little bit with the shuttles of April. There were actually, get my notes here, 11 shuttles launched in the month of April, and no, that's not right. 16 shuttles launched in April there, and you see them all there. They're icons up there. They're iconic symbols of their mission logos are up there, and we're going to talk about 3 that are in orbit in on this 26th: STS 90, 100, 31, and 55. And they, of course, were launched years and years apart. And without further ado, let's look at launched on this date in 19. We got to flip my sheet over here. Launched on this date in 1993, Columbia was put in space for a 10-day mission called the D2 Space Lab. D is for Deutsch, German. And this was a German lab that was taken up for the second time to do astronomy. They were up there. They had 88 experiments involving all kinds of disciplines of astronomy, crystal growing, of course, medical things going on, biolab, and robotic assembly on this. And to back up, let me back up here just a second, Marty, to talk about the missions of today. STS-31 deployed the Hubble Telescope. 55, let me bring that up here and we'll go back here. We're going to talk about 55 first. There at the bottom, you see STS-90. Was launched on the 17th. That is a neurological lab we're going to talk about here in a minute. STS-100 was launched on the 19th, and that was very much a construction mission at the International Space Station. They took 3 tons of supplies up there. The 24th of April saw STS-31 and the deployment of the Hubble Telescope that we're going to talk about. And then D2 was launched on this date, STS-55 in 1993. These 4 shuttle missions have 26 astronauts in orbit on this date in history. They all combined for a total of 43 days in space of incredible science. And of course, the Hubble Telescope has revolutionized mankind's look at the universe. So now we'll hit off there. By the way, beautiful launch here behind us. Thank you. One of the Usiak brothers took that launch that we use as a backdrop. So the D2 mission had on it 7 astronauts, and Bernard Harris was the African American on board. There's the rollout of Columbia in 1993. Bernard Harris, let's look at the astronauts in space here in a minute. There's the launch of here is the crew photograph taken in Houston with our good friend Sharon McDougal, Sharon Capes McDougal on there. Hi, Sharon. Hope you're watching here. She is sitting on the lap there of astronaut Tom Hendricks. They have signed this picture there, and there's other suit techs in the photograph. We had Sharon on a Stay Curious broadcast not too long ago. Go look that up on YouTube. A suit tech that took care of all the suits there in Houston and had to repair them. These pumpkin suits, they call them, were small, medium, and large, and multiple astronauts used the same suit over multiple missions. So that is a crew of 55. But you know, they do a lot of fun photography based on the mission. So this is a German mission. So there's usually a funny picture that the crew takes, and then they might do a poster on there. But the funny crew picture here, you gotcha. They're hoisting some beers in an Oktoberfest situation there, the astronauts, and I presume their wives, okay, in these photographs. And here's another one. They just didn't do one, Marty. They did two German setups. One inside a bar. Look at the German flags and stuff going on there. Two German astronauts, Ulrich Walter and Hans Schugler, were on this crew here. You see Jerry Ross flew in space 7 times. He's in the back in the middle there with a big smile on his face. Anyway, I love showing these kind of pictures of the crews, that they have a lot of fun. Launched today, April 26, 93, on a 10-day mission. The Germans managed this lab. Bernard Harris, the African American on board, set up the first intravenous line in space, injecting astronauts with saline solution to study body fluid loss during weightlessness. And they had crystal growth for electronics, Earth observations, astronomy, material science, and a lot of robotics on that mission were tested out. So we love that they have fun and hoist a big old brew to us up there in space. Also, on this date in history, we had 7 astronauts doing very important science on the Nero lab. All right. This was 1998. Columbia was in space. It was a long 16-day mission, one of the longest in the shuttle history. They're investigating the most complex and least understood part of the human body, the nervous system. And they tested. Let's look at the crew photo for STS-90. Bunch of Star Trek lovers there, okay? And there you have the whole crew, 2, 4, 6, there's 8 of them there. There's somebody extra in that picture, Marty. I don't know who. We'll have to check that out in there because there's 8 crewmen there. You had Lennon, Surhaus, Altman, Kay Hires in the middle there. And not sure who's the extra that snuck in there. Altman's on the right with the mustache. The guy on the left does not remind me of one of the astronauts. But anyway, they had test subjects, including crew members. They had rats, mice, crickets, snails, and fish on board. This Neuro Lab participating was NASA, France was involved, Germany, ESA, and Japan. And this was all in a pressure lab in the cargo module, okay? And a couple things that they tested. This was the 16th and last flight of the European Space Lab. And we wanted to show Kay Hire. There is the short blonde lady in the foreground there. To the right is Melinda Tribe. And we have Larry Clark next to Kay. And Eric Baker's in the red jacket. And I don't know the other 2 people, but all these people were test project engineers. Marty, you recommend the other 2?
It's Al Follansby.
Al Follansby is with the beard.
No.
Al, That's Larry Clark. Larry Clark's a board
Sorry,
member.
I'm sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Don't know the lady in the purple or the gentleman with the big goatee there, but they are test project engineers. Eric Baker may have given you a tour here at the American Space Museum, and Melinda Tribe right above my head is married to John Tribe. And test project engineers, very important to the shuttle. Just they are underneath the shuttle manager at the office orbital processing facility. And why I've got this picture of Kay Heyer there, because that was her job before she became an astronaut. Kay Heyer is the first Kennedy Space Center employee chosen as an astronaut. And this was at the rocket reunion in November that Marty and I attended and got to meet all these wonderful people. And we hope to have Kay back and do a Stay Curious with us, as well as get involved with some projects that we're going to do, including Shuttle Fest 2. We hope to see all these TPEs at a Shuttle Fest 2 coming up soon. But what they were doing on the Neuro Lab, Marty, was this is inside of the Neuro Lab, inside the cargo bay of the shuttle. And this was a device that you see the legs of a person sitting in it there, and they would spin them around, okay, and probably do a little of this back and forth to test, you got it, your balance system, your vestibular and ocular reflexes were all part of this experiment. There you see the drawing of the experiment there with the brain and the eyeball and the ears there. And that's what they would do, would put test subjects in that in space and whip them around. Not me. That is a way to torture me. I have horrible ear balance that I need to get checked out. But that was part of STS-90, an important neuro lab that Marty, they spent 16 days in the shuttle doing this science in, what year was that? 1998. And this is exactly the type of thing that's going on at the space station right now. The middle years of after Challenger disaster, the middle years of the shuttle tested out things with equipment like this that we could do in space that is now adapted to the International Space Station. Not sure they have this type of situation reconstructed in a lab on the ISS, but it was certainly important. The decade of the brain, they called it. And look at the back on the banner there in space. A lot of support people have signed that banner in encouragement to the astronauts. Well, STS-100 and Shuttle Endeavour, OV-105, the last shuttle built to replace Challenger, was in space, launched April 19th, 2001. It was in space on this date, April 26th. Its 12-day mission basically installed the advanced robotic arm called Canadarm2 on the space station. And there, I love this, is one of my favorite patches. All these patches for these missions are very significant in meaning. There you have 6. It is the outline of a space helmet. The actual visor is looking back at the shuttle and the Earthrise and the space station as it was configured in 2001. Just a couple modules to it. So this is one of the construction early on the space station to put the robotic arm on it there. And there's the crew on board. Had some very popular, Chris Hadfield from Canada is on there. Chris is in the back right-hand side there. You have Perezinski is on the far left front. He did a lot of spacewalks. Romo is the mustache in the center. He was the commander. And Ashby, looking at the names. Oh, let me get my cheat sheet here. Kent Rominger, Jeff Ashby was the pilot. Chris Hadfield, Scott Perezinski. John Phillips is the upper left-hand corner, the gray hair. Umberto Guidano and Yuri Lonkovic, a Russian, were on board this mission. But I love the mission patch there, the outline of a EVA helmet. You got the Canadian flag, the Russian flag, American symbols on there. So there they are in space. And this lab, why this mission is very important is what you're looking at there is the new Canadarm2 holding off and handing off to the Shuttle's Canada arm the pallet that the one was shipped in, that Canada Arm 2 was shipped in. This is the first ever robotic to robotic transfer in space, where they were actually transferring this over to the space station to be repurposed later. So a very historic day for robotics, for all of you into that too. And Canada, of course, built these arms that are based on like our human arm with joints in them to flex and move cargo around. 3 tons of cargo was transferred from the multi-purpose logistics module Raffaello to the ISS, and then Raffaello was packed with a bunch of dirty clothes and experiments and stuff to take back to Earth at the end of this and this mission of Endeavour that was a 12-day mission, but very historic. And here's another picture of Perezinski on the new Canada Arm 2, where he is moving some equipment around with that's Raffaello there attached to unload some things on it, and then they would put it back in the cargo bay. And there's the Canada Arm. So you got 2 arms there in the lower right-hand corner. And let's talk, last but not least, one of the more beautiful missions ever, a short, quick deployment of the International Space Telescope. Discovery was launched on STS-31 on April 24th. So on this date in 1990, all right, they were 32 years ago deploying the Hubble Telescope into space for his first looks at the universe. And of course, we know the optics was not quite correct, but they had to put a pair of glasses, so to speak, on it to fix an optical flaw that was not discovered on Earth. Here are the crew that deployed that. You have got Shriver in the middle is the commander, Lauren Shriver. These are astronauts dressed up in their military outfits, or since Stephen Hawley there was not a military member, he's in a suit. So you've got Lauren Shriver in the center. Not sure what that is, Marty. Is that Air Force?
Yes, it's Air Force.
Air Force, and then the Marine next to him there is Bolden. Charlie Bolden was a pilot, and he's a Marine. And on the right is Kathy Sullivan, and in the back is Bruce McCandless there. So in their military outfit, kind of a different take on the crew picture, but to give you an idea, they do the pumpkin suit picture for flight. Some of the guys that do EVA are in EVA suits. Then they do a military photo, and then they do the silly photo if they have a chance to do that. Of course, this is one of the most iconic images of all time of the space shuttle era, the robotic arm letting go of Hubble for the first time and deploying it in space. They deployed Hubble in space 380 miles high. All right. This was the 35th mission of a space shuttle, STS-31. Discovery took it up to its point in space where it was deployed, and they had just a quick 5 days up there, but they did do, they had an IMAX camera with them. They did some protein crystal growth. They did a couple optical experiments for the Air Force on this mission. But the main deal was to deploy the Hubble Space Telescope. And there the barn doors covered over it. Hubble Telescope is just a very simple reflecting telescope. Like many of you have bought for your kids under the Christmas tree, it's the mirror at the bottom, not the lens type telescope, like one binocular or a monocular. This is the reflecting telescope on it. And wanted to throw in there a little bit of history of the Hubble Telescope. It is named after this gentleman, Edwin Hubble, who was a physicist from the University of Wisconsin out of Chicago. In fact, Marty, you may not know that I know a lot of us watch The Big Bang Theory, and we're thinking of these astronomers all the time as nerdy type weaklings in a way. Edwin Hubble was a boxer. He was a championship boxer on the college team, all right? So you didn't mess with him. He knew his right cross and jabs and all maneuvers from that. But while he became famous was while using the 100-inch telescope on called the Hooker Telescope outside of Los Angeles. And while they were building the 200-inch Hale Telescope, the 100-inch was one of the most premier scientific instruments in the world. And then the 200-inch telescope become the premier telescope of the world. So it just made sense to name the Hubble the most premier telescope that's going to orbit the Earth, 9 feet in diameter, the Hubble. What Edwin Hubble did to deserve this fame was he discovered that this galaxy here, the Andromeda Galaxy, 115 years ago, photography was just coming online with telescopes. We did not know that the Andromeda Galaxy was a galaxy. It was called the Andromeda Nebula. Through telescopes, they thought that it was actually a nebulous form of gas. When Hubble started taking telescope photography through the 100-inch, they discovered that there's individual stars in this, and by analyzing the stars, their movement was such that Hubble realized our universe is not the Milky Way. There are other Milky Way galaxies in the universe. 120 years ago, we thought everything was in the Milky Way. And then Hubble and other astronomers realized that no, these faint fuzzy objects, they are full of stars, just like our galaxy. And it was so seminal that in like 1909, another universe seen by astronomer, Dr. Hubble describes the mass of celestial bodies 700,000 light years away. Well, actually, he's talking about the Andromeda Galaxy, and it's over 2 million light years away, or over a million, about 1.5 million light years away. And you can see the Andromeda Galaxy setting right now in the west after sunset, and you can see with the naked eye, the furthest object we can see with our naked eye. And we did want to give a shout out, Robert Law. Hello, surprise Robert Law, one of our number one Stay Curious fans. This is Robert Law, a picture he posted on Facebook in front of the replica of the Hubble at the Kennedy Space Center. And hope you're enjoying our program today, Robert Law, in Dundee, Scotland. So hope your evening's going well there. But we love Robert. Can't wait to see you here in the States soon, because he's going to book a trip. He's been to our American Space Museum. He's been all over the Space Coast. So, Robert, thank you for supporting and sharing with your friends our Stay Curious program here across the pond. Of course, some of the seminal images of Stay Curious are going to live forever. This is called the Pillars of Creation, and it's just that. These all represent these columns where stars are being born. In fact, that magenta star with the crosses on a star are an artifact of the telescope taking that picture. That star is in our own galaxy. But this nebula is far, far away, called the Pillars of Creation, one of the more dramatic posters ever made of the Hubble images. And just stars upon stars upon stars are seen in every direction that Hubble looks, inside of a globular cluster of stars. And then the amazing pictures that we didn't expect from the Hubble that changed our whole concept of the world, of the universe, was images like this, that every image there is a galaxy. And the Hubble telescope pointed into what was an empty space of the sky, just about the size of the moon in the sky, and saw galaxies everywhere. And think of these stars around the galaxies, billions of stars around all these galaxies. And we already know that the closest 500-600 stars to Earth contain 5,000 planets orbiting them. So why would these galaxies be any different to have planets orbiting their stars? And you run the numbers, my gosh, it's just extraordinary. The chances for people, intelligent creatures and creatures throughout our universe is just Dave Stange, Thank you up in Michigan.